right, so here we go. We're going to be we're making an anchor chart about the elements of poetry. Poetry. If I write it, you should be writing it. Thank you. Please pause.
Good morning, staff. Please excuse this announcement. The office time is 8:08. Please excuse that this is so late, but I need to make a very important announcement. Staff, if you signed up to receive the vaccine, you should have received an email yesterday. If you did not sign up for the vaccine and you would like to be added to that list, please contact me immediately this morning. I'm getting ready to go and add to the list. You can do that via email, or you can call my office, or you can call the front office and we will get your information. I need all information from all staff that want to make sure that they are listed on the vaccine list by 8:30 this morning. Again, if you are requesting the vaccine, please make sure that you get that information to me this morning by 8:30. Thank you.
That's a no for me. All right, where are you at? That is going in the book bag. Mountain Dew's in the book bag.
What?
His Mountain Dew needs to go in his book bag. That's what you don't need.
But I need something to drink.
We only drink water in the classroom. Do I need to call Mom and tell her to come back? That's the same for everybody. Everybody knows you only drink water in the classroom. All right, here we go. So, looking at poetry, you first have to talk about the structure of poetry. Structure just meaning how it's built. All right, so in poetry, we have things called stanzas. A stanza is a group of lines within a poem. I've written that down. Make sure you're good. Good morning, Sebastian. Well, thank you. Very cool. Frita Kahlo. All right, the next thing we have is line break. Oh, well, hey. L-I-N-E. Break. A line break is where each line of the text ends. Good morning. How are you? You are? Thank you. Jody, you good, buddy? Okay. All right, so the next part of a poem is talking about how it is written. It's called literary devices. Okay, so there are different types of ways that a poem can be written. They can have rhyming words. It can have a rhythm. It can have imagery. It can have alliteration. It can have onomatopoeias. And it can have repetition. So we're going to look at each one of these literary devices. They're all different types of things that help make up a poem. So the first one we're going to look at is rhyming words. What is a common book that we know that has the rhyming word poetry? Dr. Seuss. Very good. Yep, Dr. Seuss. All right, so we're just going to put a line here so we can separate it. Literary. That doesn't look like it's spelled correctly, Miss Pfeiffer, but it was. Literary. Devices. So the first one we're looking at is the rhyming words. Yes, sir. This is an anchor chart, so we can always go back and look at it and make sure that if we have any questions, we can always go look at it. So the rhyming words are words with the same ending sound at the end of lines or stanzas. I'm going to put that a little closer to me. I'm partially blind here today. All right, so they are words with same ending sound at the end of a line or stanza. At the end of lines or stanzas. Rhyming words.
Got that?
All right, the next thing we're going to look at, Nate's literary device, is rhythm. Rhythm is a pattern of stressed syllables that create a beat. A pattern of stressed syllables that create a beat. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is imagery. Imagery, it just helps the readers to visualize. It says words that create images that appeal to the senses. Words Imagery. That's better. All right, next type of literary device is alliteration. We talked about this one before. Alliteration is like saying Sally sells seashells on the seashore. They all have the same beginning sound. The same sound or letter at the beginning of words or lines. Alright, the next one is an onomatopoeia. So listen to the spelling. Onomatopoeia. 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 Whew. An onomatopoeia is a word that imitates or sound, like buzz or thud. It's a word that imitates a sound, like crash, buzz. Right out of the room. And then there's one more. I'm gonna raise your hand if you still need a moment on this page. Okay, you're good. And then the last one, I'm going to go to the next page, but you guys still write on this page or on the back of your page. Yep, can't read that. The last one is repetition. Repetition just means lines or words that are repeated to stress importance. Lines or words that are repeated to stress importance. So like in green eggs and ham, he repeats, I will not eat green eggs and hams, I will not eat them, Sam I am. They want you to understand that that is an important line in that green eggs and ham. Because he is certain he is not eating no green eggs and ham. He's not eating them in a box, he's not eating them with a fox, he's not eating them yes, actually it is. So, all right, we're going to look at some different types of elements of poetry as we read. So we're going to go to page 361 in our books, please. Page 361 in our book. We're going to do a targeted close read. 361. 361. 361. 361. All right, 361. Zamir, that is not being a responsible fourth grader. We have got to bring our books to school. You could honestly just bring them and leave them here because you're here every day, except for Wednesdays. That's the only day you need to take them home is on Tuesday. Alright, so we're going to reread this poem and then we're going to know any unique elements of poetry used by this poet, meaning the person that wrote the poem. So, necessary garden language. Libraries are necessary gardens unsurpassed at growing excitement. What type of poem is this? Do you remember those different types of poems? We have, let's see, the different types of poems. We have the rhythmic poems, or the lyrical. That's mostly like your songs and stuff. We have an acrostic. See if I can make sure I spell this right. Acrostic poem. We have a concrete poem. Hold on. We'll look at each one of these in just a minute. I just want to get all the names of the poems first. So we have acrostic, concrete, and narrative. So our lyrical are our songs. an acrostic one is like the poem that we did for myself. Jameson, sit up.
Like the one that you made for
Yes, with my first name in the. So this would be an example of a acrostic poem because it goes across. Get it? Maybe. So it has the beginning letters and letters to words. Concrete. Well, let me make sure. Let me go in the glossary. Let's look it up over here real quick. Types of poems. All right, so we have the different types. Here we go. We have the couplet, which is 2 of them. The concrete. Oh, let's see if I can get it closer. Plans rust. No. Let's look at this one first. I don't want to log in. I just want to see an image. All right, so a narrative poem tells a story, like we said. It's like a ballad. It's song-like poem that tells a story, deals with adventure or romance. Then we have the lyrical, which is expressing feelings from a single speaker, highly musical. Then we have well, we've already talked about those. This is an acrostic poem. Acrostic poem, because it uses the first letter. We have what's the other one? Where's the concrete? Not in there.
You passed it already? The one that passes where you showed us. Yeah, right there.
There?
Yep.
We don't have concrete on there. Concrete's not on there.
Shape to look like
Oh, right here, yeah. Concrete are like they're shaped like their subject. So this is an acrostic poem. Let me go back to my image. You're right. This is an acrostic. And then the one with the balloon is the concrete. I was right the other day. The one with the balloon
this one doesn't.
is a concrete
I'm gonna side with
poem. All right, so what type of poem did we say this is?
that.
An acrostic, because it goes across it. So it's an acrostic poem for the word language. So it's really talking, its key element, what it's about is about the language. So how is it arranged? How is this poem arranged? How is the poem arranged? How does it look? Pause, please. Or not. All right, somebody tell me, how does it look? How's it arranged? Just kidding.
Please excuse this interruption. If you requested to be put on the list for the vaccine, I have just forwarded you an email. Please go into that email and I need you to use the link to register for the next step. Also, at the end of your registration, there's a PDF file. Please create that PDF file for your record
So, how is this type of poem arranged? How is this poem arranged? Look at the poem and tell me what it looks like.
A short one?
Okay, a short one. Okay, that could be. All right, what else do we see?
It looks like a pretty long one, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
What is it?
Not really.
This one. What is it?
He said it looked like a pretty garden. All right, what did y'all say online? I didn't hear you. Y'all talked at the same time.
Not really.
Well, are there any stanzas in this poem? What is a stanza? A stanza is a paragraph in a poem. So, are there any stanzas? No, there are only lines. So, the words are arranged vertically, meaning up and down, and then the lines of the poem are horizontal. The author chooses one word for each line that starts with the letter in language. I'm making this more difficult than it is. All right, page 362. All right, we're just going to look at the first stanza. We're not looking at the whole poem, we're just looking at the first stanza. All right, it says, my advice to the tablespoon slurper, beware of what you do with that scoop. The capital Sir can cause quite a stir in a bowlful of alphabet soup. Who is the speaker addressing? Who is it, Christopher?
The person that's eating the alphabet.
The tablespoon slurper, the person that is eating the alphabet soup or slurping the alphabet soup. Which phrase and it is an example of alliteration and why? Which phrase in that first stanza is an example of alliteration? What did we say alliteration was? Get your reading book out.
Oh.
What is an example of alliteration in the first stanza? What do you think, Gabby?
Tablespoon slipper.
Nope. What's an alliteration? Alliteration is a repeated of the same beginning letter. The capital Sir can cause quite a stir. Because they all begin with the C sound to grab the reader's attention. It says, find an example of the author's use of imagery. Find an example of the author's use of imagery. I'm completely talking to myself today. What's imagery? Every time you see that word imagery, you need to think of image. Anytime. What type of image do you see? So what is an example of the author's use of imagery? I can't hear him either. Well, you got to speak louder, dude.
I said that imagery is words that create images that apply to those things.
Right, so it creates an image in your head when you read. If I'm reading about the big bad wolf that blows the house down of the 3 little pigs, I'm imagining a giant wolf. If I'm reading about alphabet soup, what do I have in my head? Alphabet soup. So, what is an example of imagery in this text? Nope. Let me reread the poem. You tell me what is a line that jumps out at you that gives you an image. Destiny, sit up. It says, my advice to the tablespoon slurper, beware of what you do with the scoop. The capitals, sir, can cause quite a stir in a bowlful of alphabet soup. While K, Z, and B do the backstroke across this hot, steamy lagoon, the funny, loving vowels may want tiny towels to dry themselves off on the spoon. But when letters go swimming together in sentences nothing can beat, the pleasure of reading the food that you're eating, so dive in and bon appetit. So which line gives me an example of imagery? Okay, across the hot, steamy lagoon. What's doing across the hot, steamy lagoon? Which one? The K, the Z, and the B doing the backstroke. They're swimming. They're doing the backstroke. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
I know what they mean by that is because since the soup is hot, that's the reason why it's hot.
And they want you to be thinking of, if I had a bowl of soup and all of a sudden you see the B and the Z, they're moving around. They want you to be able to see that. All right, we're going to page 366 and 367. Reread the poem on 366 to identify the speaker and take notes on the poem's visual arrangement. It says, when it's first slipping out of my hand, I was sad to see my balloon floating away. But as it rose higher in the sky, I imagined it landing in some faraway yard, where a kid like me would find it and wonder how far the balloon had flown and who held it last. And that thought made me smile. So who's speaking in the poem? The speaker is a kid, a boy. What style is the poem written in? Okay, it's balloon shaped, but what type of poem is that?
It's like going across as well.
What type of poem is that called? Well, is it an acrostic poem? No, it doesn't have a beginning letter and line going across. Jameson, sit up, son. You gotta be awake, bud. This is not his clothes. Okay. Just making sure he's paying attention. It is a concrete poem. It's written in the shape of the poem. Whew! Y'all are pulling my teeth today. All right, page 367. We're going to reread the poem on 367 to identify any structural elements and sound devices used in the poem. The arrow and the song. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For so swiftly it flew, the sight could not follow in its flight. I breathed the song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For who has sight so keen and strong that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow, still unbroke. And the song from the beginning to end, I found again in the heart of a friend. So what structural elements does Longfellow use? That's the author. What structural elements? Remember, structural elements are like line breaks and stanzas. So what structural element does he use? What? Lyrics? No, that's not a structure. That's a type of poem. Structure is how something is set up. Okay. What did we say the structure of the poems were? What the two things that were structures in a poem? Sit up. Somebody go back in your notes and tell me what the things we just wrote down. What are the two structure things that is an element of a poem? What? Stanza. So, how many stanzas are in this poem? 3 stanzas. How many lines are in each stanza? 4 lines in each of the 3 stanzas. That is what I'm talking about when I say the structural elements of the poem. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Says, what sound devices are used? So this is that second part when we talked about literary devices, sound devices. What type of sound devices do they use? Let's look. Air, where, sight, flight. Air, where, strong, song, oak, unbroke, end, friend. What are they? Rhyming. It has rhyming for the last words in the last two lines of each stanza as well. The second line in the first two stanzas is repeated also. So it has repetition and it has rhyming. Whoa, my stars today. I sure hope we're a little more awake with this tomorrow. All right, we're going to continue talking about adaptations that animals have. Let me go back to my paper. So we said some things that help an animal survive are camouflage. Because camouflage helps them to do what? Not be seen or to hide from something they're trying to eat. All right? Mimicry is if it's copying something. An octopus will copy the look of a rock so it will not be seen. Or fish, yes. So mimicry is copying something. Camouflage is something that is hidden. Now, I have hidden an iguana-looking shape in the classroom. I will show you what it looks like. Now, it looks like this. Now, it is camouflaged into my classroom. You know where it is? Where is it at? Where? Very good. So, y'all have seen.
I did see that, but I didn't know it was an iguana.
It is an iguana. It is blending in with its environment. I'm so glad you guys were able to see that.
I saw it.
It's very cool.
I don't think it was an iguana.
It is an iguana. Now, tomorrow, when we finish our reading test, I am going to give you an iguana and you're going to be able to blend it into something. But we're going to watch the video on, not variations of traits. We're looking at adaptations and the environment. Boys, enough. How do they adapt to protect themselves?